I have Mary Pilecki from Forrester here, who is a friend and extremely smart on the subject of loyalty. And we are going to talk today about customer-led growth, a topic that is near and dear to my heart, what sort of value you might get from it, how you can approach it, and really how to change your way of thinking to get close to your customers. I want to start by talking about what is customer-led growth. So the way we talk about customer-led growth at Extole is that customer-led growth is making your customers a primary vehicle for awareness, acquisition, and activation. So it's basically it's a disciplined, it is measurable, there are metrics involved, but it is a shift from a big tech centric view of marketing into a customer centric way of marketing, and one which we believe there's ample evidence to suggest has higher returns, both in terms of higher acquisition, lower customer acquisition costs, and higher LTV. So I'd like to start by just asking Mary, what do you think of CLG and how does it fit into kind of Forrester's way of thinking about it?
Thanks, Matt. It is a pleasure to be here. So Forrester has been talking about, we've been talking about the idea of customer obsession for years and years. And we actually see that customer-obsessed companies have higher revenue growth, more engaged employees, and greater customer retention. Now, this ties into the customer-led growth because customer-obsessed firms put the customer at the center of their leadership, their strategy, their operations by infusing all those areas with four principles: customer-led, insights-driven, fast, and connected. So a customer-led company provides, promotes, and they optimize their products and services based on their customers' needs. So customer-led growth actually just follows in the natural order of things. If a brand is delivering what the customer needs, the customer is then a great place to drive new growth.
Could we think about customer-led growth as sort of the revenue or go-to-market function inside of your guys' model of Forrester's model of customer obsession? Would that make sense?
Yes, we call it, we have a customer obsessed growth engine.
Of course. We're just led, I guess. We're not obsessed enough. We're only led, but we'll have to live with that. So when we started Extole, one of the things one of our goals was to give marketers a way to just acquire customers, right? Where you did not have to pay big tech. And the real insight we had was that we started understanding that everything people wear, everything they drive, what they read, what they watch, what they eat, is all being driven by people. Mm-hmm. Yet 80% to 90% of their marketing spend is to 3 or 4 extremely large companies. So the shift was to say, what if we could reliably deploy money away from big tech and still have a effective acquisition strategy? And so we looked in the very beginning at referral, and referral felt like it was the kind of cornerstone that that acquiring new customers from your customer base meant you're still deploying resources, you're still getting predictable flow, but you're not paying big tech.
Mm-hmm.
What we started seeing is this concept, and it actually started with one of our very large bank customers, where they did the analysis of all of the customers who participated in the program, and they realized that the people who advocated and the people who came in through the program had higher long-term value. So they invested more, they spent more, they stayed longer, and so that's a pretty radical view of it. So no longer were we just thinking about it as here's a way of acquiring, but this is a way of building a stronger customer base. And I want to kind of double click into that concept of what it means to be a stronger customer base. So how do you and Forrester think about kind of customer value and customer quality?
Well, one of the metrics that we're seeing jump ahead of many others when we're trying to measure the success of loyalty programs or the engagement of customers is customer lifetime value. And we have a great analyst, Brandon Purcell, who can help you, calculate your customer lifetime value. But when bottom line, customer-led growth to me really can be among the least expensive acquisition methods that you have. If you consider the rising media costs, advertisers are now paying more for less. The issue of data deprecation, which is driven by broader privacy laws, ad blocking software, and of course, the expected death of the third-party cookie. And when you take those things and you also take customer expectations from brands, they have never been higher. They want everything, and they want to be recognized by the brands they support through both monetary and what we call experiential rewards. So using the customer base to drive more revenue makes total economic sense.
One of the things we've seen on the concept of customer-led growth, we like to talk about it as quality. When we're talking about customer lifetime value, which we are firm believers in, when you think about acquiring a customer, how much you could spend to acquire is directly correlated to how much you're going to generate over their lifetime. And really, a sophisticated marketer is always going to take into account how long someone's going to stay and how much they'll spend. One of the things we saw that was even broader than that was, and this gets back to some ideas that Fred Reichelt, who is the original creator of NPS, has been working for several years on this thing, NPS 3.0, with several of his peers. And NPS 3.0 was moving away from this kind of self-recorded, tell us how likely you are to recommend someone to a friend, into trying to understand, are there actual business metrics that I could do, KPIs that I could watch that would give me a not such a subjective and not a gameable way of understanding the value of my customer base. And what they finally broke it down to is they said there were two functions that mattered the most in long-term enterprise value. One was how much your customers were spending relative to each other. So how much of your revenue was coming from existing customers through upsells, cross-sells, additional loans, additional products. But the one that was most surprising was what percentage of your customer base came through earned media. Mm-hmm. And earned media for them is just another word for referral. So they actually demonstrated sort of analytically that the higher the percentage of your customer base that came through referral, the longer the actual enterprise value, the larger the enterprise value was generated. And we thought that was very exciting because instead of it just being listen, this is pretty obviously intuitive that treating customers better is going to make them stick around. No, in fact, it actually was demonstrably better customer base. What do you think of that concept?
Oh, I fully agree. And I'm glad that Fred Reichelt came out with it because, over time since the original NPS score came out, companies have figured out how to game it, right? They'll bribe customers. They'll say, I'll lose my job if you don't score me X, Y. So, looking at this earned growth rate, which really captures that revenue growth generated by returning customers and their referrals, I think is critical. And it sort of fixes the problem with NPS. So I'm fully on board with it.
Yeah, I think it's really neat. We are definitely keeping an eye on it. So let's get down to sort of brass tacks. So we've broken down CLG into 3 key customer journeys, and I like to sort of explore each one. And we call these journeys the transactional journey, which is about how much they spend, the engagement journey, which is how much they do, and the advocacy journey, which is how much they influence. Right. So let's go start to talk kind of one by one. So we start with the transactional, which says this is the typical land of loyalty where we're saying, did they buy? What's their average order value? What's their order frequency? Are they taking out more loans? Talk to me a little bit about transactional and loyalty from your perspective.
So transactional loyalty has been sort of it's been how we measure loyalty by transactions since loyalty began, right? So for years, we've been measuring customers and rewarding them for their transactional behavior. So as you said, the frequency of their orders, the average order value, even ratings and reviews, we reward them for that kind of influence. It's a give and get, earn and burn sort of mantra. And it still works. And we don't see brands moving away from this. We see them expanding, but it's still a core piece of loyalty.
So when we talk about expansion, that sort of leads naturally into this next journey, which is the engagement journey. The engagement from our perspective is things like asking people to rate or review or visit a branch or download an app, try a game, watch a video, all these sort of activities, many of which actually drive significant value.
Right.
Even if it's not direct value. Do you want to sort of dig into that for a moment, this concept of expanding loyalty to engagement?
Sure. So customer engagement is now seen as the key to growing the entire customer relationship. So brands are using gamification to keep customers entertained. As you said, they give them points for watching a video, but they want to keep the consumer interacting with them. Even if they're not purchasing in every interaction, they want to stay top of mind with the customer. Through engagement, they're learning more about the customer, they're collecting zero-party data, they're capturing their feedback, and they're using engagement tactics across the entire customer life cycle. So we're starting to see with loyalty vendors, the development of true customer engagement metrics that are based on a variety of these kinds of activities. And it's critical.
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing with the Extole customers is programs like nomination programs, gifting programs. We have one called Drop a Hint, where people are doing things where they're not giving money, but where we can quickly both get zero-party data, meaning when they engage in these programs, they tend to tell us who they are, and get them to do things that bring the brand back top of mind. So this gets us to the third journey, which is near and dear to my heart, which is the advocacy journey. And this one's a little tricky because the other two are more about, oh, I have a customer, I'm going to ask them to do something, whether it's to buy or whether it's to act. And this one starts introducing, and the value is, okay, how much am I getting out of the customer over time? Now we're starting to get into this acquisition realm. And so with advocacy, we're saying, I'm going to ask you to do something, but the net result of that will be greater awareness and, in fact, new acquisition. So would you like to comment on that?
I see advocacy as both sort of the final step in the customer life cycle from, becoming aware of a brand through buying, using, all the way around again. But it's also the first step, because that's often how a new customer becomes aware of a brand, is through advocacy. So, asking for these ratings and reviews, offering rewards for referrals is now a really critical way to not only engage your customers, but also acquire customers. And we did Forrester did a survey of CMOs in Q4 last year. And that told us that 92% of those surveyed had some sort of referral program, and another 7% were planning on implementing one in the next 12 months. Now, these are B2C CMOs. But the goals they had for these programs were, reducing acquisition cost, as we talked about, increasing customer lifetime value, building that brand awareness, improving customer engagement, and generating incremental sales. So it's not just about one thing. An advocacy program can bring you results on all those fronts. And when you think about the customer lifetime value of somebody who refers a lot of their friends, successfully refers them, so you're acquiring new customers, but they don't buy much from you, that still can be a very high customer lifetime value, because they're bringing in the new customers.
I love that happens.
Yes,
because it just at a human level, I love it. We had a customer a client that had a customer that had only spent $90, which put them in okay, you exist as a customer, but barely more than that.
Right.
This woman had driven $1,500 worth of sales through her friends. And it turned out she was just a mom, and she had actually reached out to almost 200 people. So you have this $1,500 in sales, you have 200 really high quality awareness events, right? And you have the connection among all those people that you've earned from this relatively simple, straightforward mode. And what I also like about the reason I call these journeys as opposed to just transactional loyalty and is that I think that that in each case you go from a beginning to an end.
Yes.
So a transactional journey goes from your first purchase to being a subscriber or, like a bigger version. The engagement goes from, okay, I may have signed up for your newsletter to, I'm actually participating or I'm going to events, etc. The advocacy one I love because you start with like, okay, even the first step, which is referring, creates value. Even if they don't buy, even if your friend doesn't buy, because now you've just put it out in the world with that special charismatic attachment that says it's not just that I'm saying you should get a Peloton, it's that I'm saying you should get a Peloton. And then the next step is a successful advocate. Oh, now I get revenue, so now I'm on a double benefit. The third step is when somebody becomes a super advocate, and then even into the really fun realms, which we call ambassador and influencer. It's just ambassador being we call a customer that becomes a super advocate, and influencer is essentially a non-customer that becomes a super advocate. That's our simple terminology for it. But you see people like yoga instructors that are recommending to their students a set of yoga pants, right? These aren't just someone buys something and refers it. This is an ambassador on the behalf. A lot of companies going into campus ambassadors. Mm-hmm. Companies like Sperry, companies like Barnes & Noble, where they're saying, I want to actually have people on campus representing the brand. I want to have a relationship. I want them to know that I care.
Yeah.
And that's what I really like about this. And we're going to segue in a minute into incentives, is the concept that up to now, we've just been describing behavior we want. Right? These are things that will be good, and if we get people to do them. And I want to talk a little bit about causing that behavior, right? And the role of kind of incentives in this game. So I know you have a strong opinion about the role of incentives and how incentives are changing. I'd love for you to sort of weigh in for a minute on that.
Sure. And I just want to back up for a minute because Forrester also does a consumer buyer journey survey every year, and we survey what are the key factors in choosing a brand for purchasing things like furniture, clothing, a beverage, a major appliance. It's across multiple different categories of purchases. And in all of them, within the referrals from friends or family are in the top 3 reasons they chose that specific brand. It's natural, right? They want to hear what their friends and family say about X brand.
Can I comment on that just for a second? For one, incentives. When we started doing this platform at Extole, and we started getting into referral, one of the complaints that we heard was people said, it'll never work for things you don't buy very frequently, right? That people felt like referral was really about things that you buy a lot, like books or movies or things like that who's going to, a bed gets bought every 10 years, how big a deal? And it turns out it works the best there. And I think it's because we suck at buying things. Like, just to be frank, like we're bad at buying chairs and we're bad at buying beds and we're bad at buying cars. Now, there are some people out there who are, but for the most part, we just want to know, is someone that we know not have buyer's remorse? It's as simple as that.
It's that we stink at it, but also there's too many choices now, right? And so if you want a mattress, you can go.
How are you going to become a professional mattress selector when there's 1,500 options? It's so hard. You want to know.
So how do you know? But you talk to the people you trust, right? You don't talk to the salesperson. You talk to the people you trust, your friends.
And the other thing that we found out about is there was a lot of discussion of incrementality. Were they going to buy the bed anyway? Mm-hmm. Right? Well, if they were going to talk to their friend and buy the bed anyway, why would I incent them for it? And one of the things that we discovered over time is the concept of a cocktail party referral, which was, you're at a cocktail party, you're saying, I'm thinking of getting a new mattress, or even like bigger ones, I'm thinking of getting car insurance. Who do you use, right? Well, that person is going to buy car insurance. They're probably it's not being caused by that person at the party, right? But what that person is doing is definitely causing it to happen now and definitely causing selection at that point. So even though you never reached out to the referrer, that referrer may go back to the site, figure out a referral thing, and make a referral. And you're like, well, I would have gotten it anyway. It's like, yeah, but you wouldn't have gotten it this weekend, and someone else would have gotten it too. And it ends up being a very, very powerful and non-intuitive mode of referral. So I'd love to get you back to my question, because I know that you enjoy incentives, and I want to hear about it.
Sure. So, we had talked about the transactional journey, right? And not only is that, sort of the give and get, the earn and burn, but those rewards traditionally in loyalty programs, referral programs, have been monetary rewards, whether they are discounts or cash back or some sort of currency like points or miles or stars that will then lead to, I can get some gift. And brands are still doing that. But they're not just trying to increase customer transactions anymore. They're trying to generate emotional connections with their customers, because emotions actually drive behavior. So consumers who feel appreciated by a brand are far more likely to stay with the brand, to buy more products and services, and to advocate for that brand. And one way they're generating these emotional connections is through experiential rewards, in a way that they're trying to make the customer feel special. So things like offering special customer service to a certain tier of customers. You don't have to wait on the phone. You're going to get right through, or you have a really trained rep to help you. Giving them early access to new products like Nike Sneaker Club and being, the first on the block to have the new sneakers, or enabling them to use their loyalty points to donate to certain charities. Those are all examples of simple experiential rewards that are being used now regularly in loyalty programs. But then there are more complex and fun rewards, like Marriott Bonvoy has this ever-changing set of experiences they call Bonvoy moments. So members can use their points and either buy an experience or bid on one. Some are auctions, some are just purchases with points, like events like getting box seats at Chicago Cubs Club, or an advanced preview of the BBC Earth experience, which is this really cool thing I want to go to. Or you can even bid on an evening of fine dining at the restaurant Spago in Beverly Hills. And with that, you get a kitchen tour with the chef, Wolfgang Puck. So, understanding your customers and figuring out what will incent them to feel more emotionally connected is what's changing incentives. People still want those monetary incentives. They want those points. They want those discounts, but they also want more.
I just find this fascinating. I honestly believe that we're going to look back and realize that incentives are a fundamental branding activity. Mm-hmm. And I think the other side that we're seeing at Extole with some of these programs is people are asking, as you said, they do points, they do through our platform, they do gift cards to the platform, they do charitable giving, but they're also doing different things like running a nomination program to nominate a frontline worker, and the reward is to give a pair of shoes to the frontline worker, or the reward is to plant a tree in your name, or the reward is to donate to this. And in some cases, the reward needs to be, like in the case of some types of insurance, you have to do that reward, a non-monetary reward, because of state regulations. So now you start seeing charitable donations. The other part that I really like about incentives is that different people respond to different things.
Yes.
So for the most part, especially in retail, it has been a coupon cannon for 50 years. It's just we spray as many coupons as we can on as many people as we can in the hope that one or two of them stick and turn into transactions, as opposed to saying, listen, I need to get people to upload their prescription information to my drugstore. What should I offer? Well, this person might respond to this, and this person might respond to this, and that'll get me the action. So the personalization of incentives, I think, is going to be is an area we're already seeing where, because of our platform is capable of doing it, we're already seeing have value. So I wanted to ask, so how do I start the path towards CLG? So I'm a retailer, I'm a financial services company, I have an app. What should my first move? Where do I get value fastest?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, when you think about the customer life cycle, and of course, Forrester's customer life cycle has 7 stages, but there's the discover stage, evaluate, commit, that's when you actually buy, initiate, that's when you start to use and participate, actualize, that's when you really recognize the value of what you're doing with that brand, and then advocate. So again, I think advocacy needs to be both at the start of that life cycle and the end. So a new customer is made aware of your brand through an advocate or a referral, and then that customer, hopefully as they go through the life cycle, they become an advocate themselves. And so, I think one of the easiest ways to start is just to even do a trial program where somebody who's just purchased something, you say to them, did you enjoy your purchase? Recommend a friend. Here's 10% off if you recommend a friend. It's easy. It's a one-time transaction, but it's not costing you from the media perspective, and it's engaging them. It's letting them know that you recognize they bought, right? And customers feel special.
Why wouldn't we make customers feel as special as we make Google and Facebook feel? Doesn't that seem like a reasonable first requirement? I like our customers. Right? Like I would be biased towards doing more for them than the other guys. And so I'm naturally just looking for it. And so I want to ask one last question for you. And that is, what do you think separates a winner and a loser in this game of customer-led growth? So we know what the measure is, but what's the behavior? How do I think about this? How am I going to be a CLG winner?
So a couple of years ago, I led a team of analysts at Forrester to do some research, and we published a report that was called Vast, Fast, and Relentless. Consumer Buying Enters a New Era, right? And it discussed 4 major forces that are shaping how consumers buy today. And, there's the things we talked about already, but I think one of the key strategies that brands need is this ability to rapidly revise what they're doing. So agility. We saw this with the pandemic when, all of a sudden everything was shut down. If you didn't have digital capabilities, you weren't able to do e-commerce with your customers, you lost those customers, right? But there were brands that were able to rapidly transform. We heard the stories of the brew houses, changing one line of beer to now, instead of making beer, we're going to make hand sanitizer because it was something that was needed, right? But they found a way to keep making money, and they were agile. What we're recommending to brands today is that you have regular strategy sessions thinking about what could happen, what will happen. We're going to have climate disasters where, we have a war going on. Who knows if we'll have another pandemic anytime soon. But what is the impact those things might possibly have on your business, and how will you address it? So you have to plan ahead, but you also have to have tools that allow you to rapidly change and be agile.
I think that's great. The one of the phrases we use at Extole is just by Friday. Mm-hmm. And the idea is there are good marketing ideas, but great marketing ideas are by Friday. And a lot of the reason why we feel this way is when you're doing something with customers, the benefit is you get it when you find it, it's true in a way that at your whiteboard and sitting in PowerPoint, it's not. Like when you find something with a customer, it is inherently true. The problem is you need to interact with the customer to find the truth. And so what we look at is like the faster and more iteration you can do with the customer, the more likely are you going to find that truth that builds your business. So at Extole, we've been capable of launching customers in a single day we had a particular nomination program back when I mentioned for frontline workers, where one of our shoe company brands, it's a client of ours, was early in the pandemic, and they said, we'd like to try this thing. And we had it running in 2 days, and it was launched on Friday. And that was the key, and it was very successful. Now, did we know it was going to be successful? We had no idea whether it was going to be successful. But you don't have to make that decision when you can do things by Friday. You do them, and you understand them, and then the things that are successful, you do more. The things that are not successful, you do less. So that's just a general, I think you have to when you're dealing with humans in a way that, I think people think about it intuitively when they're buying keywords. Like back when people used to do it manually, now it's all being done by AI. But even that is just how fast can I put something out, understand. There's no difference with customer-led growth. What we're just trying to do is lower the cost, lower the investment, lower the time. So we raise the response, raise the learning.
Right. So the agility enables you to test and learn if you have to track and measure. And if you find out it doesn't work, so you stop and you try something new. The cost of that is much cheaper than developing a whole new product.
So to wrap it up, what we're trying to do here is help people understand the benefits of customer-led growth, right? And that would be new acquisition. I can get customers at a reasonable CAC in a world where, at a reasonable customer acquisition cost in a world where that's not always a given, right? Mm-hmm. With Facebook and Google these days, it's not a given that you're going to have a reasonable customer acquisition cost. You can have higher LTV, higher profitability over time with the customers. You can also have higher awareness. You know more about it when people are sharing and talking, and who they share with is telling about the customer, and just general insights. So the overall, it seems like a slam dunk for a marketer to go this direction, and we're just excited what people are willing to try. So thank you so much for your time. This has been fantastic, and we look forward to seeing what people come up with.
All right. Thanks very much, Matt.